Hello and welcome. This video is about setting up your environment for the Web Development Technologies course. So to get started here, probably the first thing kind of just want to look at is the application hardware requirements. And just the I know there's a lot of students that are new, and so, we use some different technologies as far as documents are concerned. And so we use, we got a lot of Google Drive type documents. And, some students might be more familiar with that than others. And this document here, basically, it's kind of set up, I think, for the most part. I shouldn't say it's perfect. But like if you click on something and you click it, it should go to that part within the document. Okay. But you can also scroll down as well. But let's just see if this works. Yes, it did. So first thing we're looking at is the hardware requirements for this course. And I know that we've had students in the past try to take this course with Macs and so forth, but there's a lot of technologies that are very Microsoft centric, so to speak. The .NET platform, C Sharp. Within this program, we're not going to be doing the C Sharp here in this course, but there are a lot of this program. The whole program is about some Microsoft technologies, and really the Windows environment's the best one to have. I wouldn't try to. I know there's some students who try to use Macs and they have problems with some of the advanced stuff when we're in like the C Sharp course, and also the second year database driven 2 course, which is basically the .NET course. So really hope that you have a Windows machine and either a laptop or a PC. Now, as far as these different requirements, not that you have to have, it has to be perfect or that, okay? But, basically if you got just a really old computer with, that's older processor, you don't have a lot of space, that, and, I'm not really a hardware person. I'm more of a software person as far as from a technology standpoint, as far as knowledge. But, I do know a little bit, obviously, and it's good to have a good processor, which is your CPU, have a good amount of memory. Here it says minimum 8, 16. I would really recommend having 16 or more. Actually, my computer, which I'm using right now, has 32. So 16 or better would be highly recommended. And then as far as storage, we're going to be downloading a lot of stuff. You're going to have a lot of applications you're going to be downloading that we're going to be using throughout the program. As far as from this course, the Web Technology course, a little bit on the lighter side, I'd say. We are going to have Visual Studio Code that we're going to download, and some packages, but still going to take up some amount of space. Okay, still going to take up some amount of space. Some of the other courses, you'll probably need more space, but, kind of be a good idea to have a significant amount of storage so that you can download everything that needs to be downloaded. If you have a computer that you've had for a little bit, maybe, and it meets most of the requirements, okay, meets most of the requirements, you can always try to delete some things carefully. Make sure you don't delete something you want to keep. And also maybe you're using some kind of a backup system where some of the stuff is already backed up somewhere. So you might be able to clean up some things to free up some space. Please let me know if you have any questions about that. And like I said, it doesn't have to be, exactly like what's mentioned here, but you just need to make sure that you kind of have a recent machine. You're using Windows 10 or 11. You got a good amount of storage to save things, and memory's good for. This is very good for running certain programs, like we're going to be using Visual Studio Code, and so the more memory you have, the better it's going to kind of perform. Okay. I'm not going to actually install everything. Okay. A lot of this you can go ahead and do yourself. If you have any problems, I'm here to help you. But I will do a few. I uninstalled some things from my computer. The problem with that is that when you do an install, there's usually a lot of things that kind of get held on to within the operating system, and so it's hard to do actually a clean uninstall, like you're starting from scratch, just because of how the operating system works. So, but I did uninstall Visual Studio Code, and I uninstalled the Git and also the GitHub desktop. So I'm kind of really gonna be installing those, and you might have some little bit of different options when you install yours, but hopefully it won't be too different. Okay. So basically here you want to download Visual Studio Code. So if you click on this link, it'll give you another option right here. Click on that, okay, and come in here to Visual Studio Code. You just want to go ahead and download for Windows. Okay, and it's currently downloading, and it is done. And so then we just want to go ahead and open that. And just to kind of, I know different students have different levels of understanding about, Windows environments and stuff. So basically, sometimes you can go, I'm using the Chrome browser here, and I recommend using Chrome as well. Usually when you download something, up here at the top, on the right-hand top, it'll have your downloads. Usually, by default, it puts it in a download folder, in your download folder. So if for some reason you don't see it or whatever, go ahead and maybe navigate to your download folder, and you can double click on it there. Okay. So here I'm going to accept the agreement and click next. It's going to put it in a kind of default location. You can change that if you'd like. I'm just going to go ahead and accept that though. You can go ahead and create a startup menu folder. I would leave that unchecked. Okay. Hit next. I went ahead and kind of redid my screens here a little bit so we kind of can look at the directions while I'm doing this. So here it says create a desktop icon, add open with code. And so what that will do, let me see that first one, add open code action to Windows Explorer. Okay, so I'll show you what that does later when we start it. So that way you can actually open your directory structure and be able to open up Visual Studio. And from when we start doing assignments, that's where that'll become relevant. And we can go ahead and unselect the register code, add path. So just like that, just like it's in the directions on the right-hand side here. And we're going to go ahead and click next and click install. And I will pause my video while it's doing that. It probably still won't take very long. Okay, now it's finished. I will go ahead and just go ahead and click on finish here. I have launched Visual Studio Code just so we can take just a quick look at it. And actually we are going to be doing something, and here it's bringing up some things. So like I said a little bit ago, since I kind of was already had it installed, it's still kind of some of that stuff's left behind, so it's kind of bringing up a previous project, and there's going to be some other configurations here as well that's probably already set just because it's holding on to those things. But just kind of wanted to reinstall it just so you could see that being done for your sake. And then here, the first thing it says is go ahead under settings, change the tab size to a 4. So we go to settings, okay? And in here, you can go ahead and choose tab, like that, tab size, okay? So under settings, take to 4. I'm fine with 2 or 4. That's up to you, or what you want to do there. I'm going to go ahead and change that to 4. And close that. It automatically saves that. Okay. Then on the left-hand side, you'll see an extension button. And if you come over here, right here, there's an extension button. And unfortunately, I have things that are already installed. Okay. So I won't be installing anything, but I'll show you what you need to do. Basically, you come in here and you can kind of like grab this or whatever, type it in there, and extensions, and then put it in there and it's going to find it. I already have mine installed, okay? I've already have mine installed, but if you go ahead and put it in here, you can come in here and click install on it, okay? Like if you'll see these other ones here, okay, which I'm not going to click this button, but you can go ahead and if this wasn't installed, you'll see an install button just like you see at these other ones, okay? And then you click the install button and install it, okay? So you pretty much want to go ahead and do that for all of these, all right? And then next go to the configure the extension that you installed. Okay, under the extensions window, click the more actions, ellipsis, and select installed extensions. Click the gear icon to manage settings for the live server extension. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and find the live server here. So let me do that. Live server, which I have installed. Here's the gear we're talking about. Okay. So once you have it installed, you can just type it in like I'm doing here, right? Since it doesn't have install on here, I know it's already installed, right? So once you have it installed, you won't see the little blue button there. And then you can click on this gear icon here, okay? And click settings. And in here, one of the ways it's kind of easiest is, let me see here. Well, you can go ahead and scroll down, but in here you got this live server settings host. Okay, change it. I think by default it's going to be 127.0.0.1. You want to go ahead and change that here. It says it right here. There's the default. You want to change this to localhost. Okay. And then you want to do this, follow directions for these other ones as well. Here's do the same thing for the prettier code one, right? Which we already seen that one earlier. Okay. Since I don't have a blue button, I know it's installed. If you come in here and you still have a blue button, then that means it's not installed, right? Then go ahead and configure that one as well. Click on the little icon here, come down to settings, okay? And then most of the time what you can do here is search for print with, right? So that's another way. Either you can scroll down or you can go ahead and do this. A little easier, just go ahead and put like print with, and then you go ahead and change that to 120. Okay. You don't have save buttons on this. Once you just make a change here, it's automatically going to be changed. Okay. And then it's telling you also to change it to a single quote as well. Okay. Which you probably could just search for quote. Yep, single quote right here. Use the single quote instead of double quotes. All right. So shouldn't be too bad for you. Please let me know if you have any questions about installing Visual Studio Code. Did want to mention, I believe I mentioned this also in the welcome video, and I probably mentioned a few different times early on here. So there's some students in here that are already taking the C# course, and they're used to using Visual Studio, but it's not. It's Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio 2022, right? Is a different product. Okay, so what you were using for the C# class, the Visual Studio, you lose it for the C# class is different than the Visual Studio Code. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close this now. And now we want to go ahead and install Git. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on this once, then click on this here. All right. And you can just come down here, the latest source release, download for Windows. Let me make sure that I didn't click the wrong thing here. Haven't done this in a little while. All right, download for Windows. Click here to download. And hopefully you've got a, x64 version, not a 32. Most newer computers are always going to be x64. So click here to download. And I'm going to go ahead and open this. Click yes. Click next. Just going to go ahead and accept the defaults. And it tells you right down at least, 356 megabytes of free disk space. That's why I said early on, you need to make sure you have a good amount of disk space to include all these different downloads and so forth. And throughout the course, there'll be additional things we'll do also that'll take up disk space. Click next. I'll hit yes. And I think that, let me go look at the directions here. And this is where I think it's kind of holding on to some things. And if you're prompted to create a global ignore file, we weren't. I am just going to, yours might look a little bit different. Just follow what it says here if you're prompted. Select Notepad as the default editor. Default plus, right? Enable file system caching. If you're asked any of that, make sure you do that. But I think this is going to look a little bit different for you than me, just because, like I said, it's holding on to things. Choose a default editor. So I'm going to use Notepad++ here. Click Next. Use a default branch name, kernel master for the initial branch. Yeah, hit Next. I am concerned that, probably what you're seeing and what I'm seeing is going to be different here. I think it's because I made some different kind of adjustments, and it held on to some of that. Enable Get Credential Manager, yes. Enable file system caching, yes. Enable symbolic links. We can go ahead and do no on that. That's kind of what it says in here. This was all on one screen over here on the right hand side of the directions. On mine, it's on multiple screens, and I'm not sure what you'll see. Should be pretty quick here. And obviously it all depends on your internet connection and so forth. I'm going to do no on that and just hit finish. And so now I have Git installed. And what Git is, I should mention what Git is. Git is the, that's what we use for our, it's a application that's used to track changes that you make to files, coding files. So it will track, since you installed it locally, it will track when you're making changes for coding purposes, okay? And I'll show you how that all works here in the, the first week of the course. But it'll track your different changes so that you can go ahead and it'll know that something changed, so you can check that in, okay? And we'll go through all that later. So the next thing you want to do is you want to go ahead and register at GitHub Classroom. So go ahead and click on this link. And this will go to the GitHub Classroom for this course. You want to come down here and you want to choose your name. So I am going to be using, I'm going to I kind of set myself up as a, as a user also, as kind of a student. So I can kind of do the same thing you're doing, especially when I'm checking in code, just to help you guys out. So the first thing you're going to do, your account is linked to on this roster. If this is wrong, please reach out to your instructor. I think that I'm going to have to change something because I have two different accounts. I didn't think about this. Let me change something because it's coming into the wrong thing here. All right. I was trying to use my existing account. So you come in here. If somebody already has a GitHub account, you can go ahead and use that, especially if you already set one up for if you were a C# student. You can go ahead and continue with that. If you don't have a GitHub account, you should create one. Even if if for some reason you have a different one, you can use that, but probably should just create a new one more for this program, right? So if you don't have an account with GitHub, new students, like I said, you go ahead and select your name from the list. So you should be able to get to that point. It'll come into here, right? And so what you're going to want to do is come down here and create a new account, right? Create an account and go ahead and provide all of the information here. So just go ahead and follow these directions through. First name _ last name. And sometimes, obviously if you've got a popular name, it's already going to be taken. So you might have to put a number after that, some year or, just 1, 2, 3, whatever you need to do, right? But you may have to put something else in there because it has to be a unique name. So if you got a common name, it's probably going to be already taken. So just go ahead and walk through all of that. Create your new account. Okay. And I'm going to pretend. I'm going to pause this here and log back in and pretend like I'm coming in. Okay, I had a couple of challenges I'd overcome. I have multiple accounts. So this is the account that I wanted it to be on. And so once you, you click the classroom, go ahead and create your GitHub repository as it states in the directions. And then you'll have to go back into that classroom link again. Okay, you have to go back in that classroom link again. I believe it says that in there. Let me just make sure. Once the account has been created, you're logged in, follow the link again. So you'll have to follow this link again after you've created it. Okay, click through the process of creating your online repository. Okay, and then you should just be able to accept this assignment. Okay, And then if you click on this link, it's creating it over here in the other directory. And you should see this here where you've got some additional, some folders here, okay? Just want to mention real quick, I'm just taking a quick look here to make sure everything looks okay. So you'll see in a lot of these, you're going to see some circumstances, you may see some files that have, let's see, that was data files. Don't want to be in that one. Let me just go into labs. So in these labs, you're going to probably see a lot of these temp.txt file. And actually, if you looked at this actually kind of what this does is kind of downloads it. But it's going to say this is just a placeholder. You can ignore this file. So you're going to see a lot of these temp.txt. The reason for that is when you create a new directory in GitHub, when you create a new directory in GitHub, it's only going to actually put that directory in the repository if there's something underneath of it, right? There's nothing, it doesn't just create a blank structure, so you have to have at least something in there. So that's the purpose in these temp.txt files. These aren't anything that you're going to be changing or anything. You just can kind of ignore them completely, all right? But there you go. And like I said, you should just see it like this. If this is what you see, you're good to go. Okay, you're good to go. All right, let's go back to the directions here. Next thing is want to go ahead and do and is install GitHub Desktop. And click on that link. Come down to download now. Download for Windows, 64-bit. And let's see how this is going to look for me because I've already had this installed before. Hopefully it reads. So you might see a few different things than what I'm going to see. But it should be pretty similar. Let me see real quick what account this is pointing to. So once you're on GitHub Desktop, once you're logged in on the GitHub, once you're logged into GitHub, it's actually going to use that information to create your thing here, okay? And it's holding on to some older things for me, but when you come in here, it should be all ready to go. So just go ahead and follow the directions and setting up your environment. Like I said, my situation is a little different. But once you go ahead and get that set up, so basically what you're doing is if you follow the directions correctly, it should have a handle on this, and then you just need to find a place on your local machine where you want to save it, okay? And then after that, when you come in here, you should be able to go show and explore here. Click this, and you should be able to see where it was created, okay? Now let me see what else we have here. I'm not going to install these, but if you don't have Discord, I know a lot of students probably already have Discord, just because it's very popular in gaming. A lot of gamers. So if you don't have Discord installed, please install that and follow the directions on here. I would install Notepad++. I use that kind of regularly here and there. And, we'll be doing a lot of different things where an ad blocker might be advantageous for you to do. But the most important thing is to really make sure that you you kind of really get done correctly is and first because very important this first week that you're going to have to turn in assignments. So very important to have Visual Studio Code installed, have Git installed, GitHub Desktop, and make sure that you have a GitHub repository created. So a GitHub account, right? So them are really the most important things. So please let me know if you have any questions about anything. Don't feel bad if you need to reach out for help. I'm here for that. So that's all I have for today. Please let me know if you have any questions. Thanks.